I recently stumbled upon this. Now, I don't speak Chinese, but I was intrigued by the recurring mention of AI in Latin alphabet. So I asked ChatGPT to translate it for me and stumbled upon a complete gold mine when it comes to our objectives on this channel. This was a post made by an ordinary middle-aged Beijing-based writer about AI, discussing the topic of art. And it made me realize how much we artists facing AI could learn from other cultures. By all appearances, the Chinese tradition of art seems much more resilient to the threats. Confident in their abilities, they're not afraid of being replaced. Instead, they're experimenting with it more than us. And that's very, very interesting for us Western artists to learn from. On this channel, we explore how AI will change art. We seek to identify what is worth holding on to, and as a great enemy reveals unknown aspects of ourselves, we also look for new elements in traditional art emerging from the opposition to AI. By collectively interacting and reflecting on this in the comments section, we aim to enrich our practice of art and make it more relevant and fulfilling. This video is a golden opportunity for us artists, me included, to look at things from a refreshing angle, and I extracted 3 key lessons from it that I'm going to expose to you guys. Also, I'm experimenting way outside of my comfort zone with this, so let me know what you guys think in the comments. And lastly, as you might be able to tell from my voice, I'm very, very sick right now, but AI is not going to wait around for us to catch up, so we gotta stay on the grind. Let's go. And I apologize about my voice. Part 1. Conservative or not? Did you know that China, as opposed to the West, considers AI art should be protected by copyright? In December 2023, the Beijing Internet Court ruled in a decision that an AI-generated image in an intellectual property dispute was an artwork protected by copyright law. The court said the picture should be considered artwork based on the originality and intellectual output of its human creator. This is a stark difference to our conservative, resentful, and fearful approach to AI art in the West. On the 2nd of May 2024, Emma Duester, who is an associate professor at the Institute of Cultural and Creative Industry at Shanghai Jiaotong University, published results from a research project involving 122 contemporary Chinese visual artists from across China, including painters, sculptors, mixed media artists, and internet artists. The study reports that 87.5% of artists interviewed use AI, regardless of their age or art medium. Some said that they use AI for idea creation, others use AI for research, for image creation, and use it for writing scripts for the final art piece, particularly for video artists. Finally, a few more use AI throughout their creation process, and most of them use them in the final art piece or exhibitions. I was able to find a bunch of similar studies done with Western artists, and the numbers are usually more between 30 and 50% with quite a lot of inter-study variance. But there's also quite a bit of interesting facts beyond numbers, and this is, what I've just said is pretty preliminary. I would love to go back into this and make the numbers more precise and really get at the truth on this. If you guys are interested, you can let me know in the comments. So there's facts beyond numbers. The Chinese government back in 2021 was already calling for, quote, the integration of arts and technology. As a direct result of these policies, many artists are now creating digital artworks and using more and more digital processes, including AI. Now, what is the reason, the cultural reason, for this peculiar openness to AI? Part of the reason for it we're about to cover in Part 2. Part 2. Masters of AI-proof art. An interesting reason for Chinese creatives' openness to AI arts might have to do with their lack of worry about it. In that study by Emma Duester, interviews were conducted, and the takeaway was that, quote, far from worrying about losing their jobs, visual artists from across China are in fact excited and optimistic about AI. They believe it can enhance their creativity, develop their knowledge and thinking, prevent them from being lonely in their studios, give them 4 hands, and reduce the amount of time they spend doing tasks down to a matter of minutes rather than days. So there doesn't seem to be much worry over there, especially when compared to the crazy panic that we saw in the West. Alright, now let's get back to that article I mentioned in the intro. The author of that article at some point asks ChatGPT to write an essay about spring, no more than 500 words. ChatGPT took less than 3 minutes to write some text in Chinese, and the response of the author was as follows. When I read these words from ChatGPT, I breathed a long sigh of relief. The spring that AI writes about is based on a standard answer, and it doesn't look human at all. For example, flowers bloom in spring. What kind of flowers are they specifically? Which one do you like best? What do you think are the characteristics of each flower? When does it bloom? What is its shape? What is its color? Does it have a scent? Why do you like it? What is the story between you and those flowers? Another example is the air is filled with the fragrance of flowers. All these specific, detailed, and individual observations, experiences, and thoughts are more interesting the more specific they are, rather than just saying that flowers are blooming in spring and that the air is filled with the fragrance of them. That's to satisfy the teacher. If I were a Chinese teacher, I wouldn't be able to deal with writing like this. Now, this is very interesting because I've been reading all I can get my hands on about AI for years because I work in an AI lab, and yet I'd never seen generative AI outputs being criticized so thoroughly. There are a few more quotes from the article, so let's get in some more quotes. The advantages are rule following, and the disadvantages also come from rule following. It conforms to the standards, but there's nothing flashy about it. Just like when I was a kid, there was a class of good students in my class who had really great grades, but were really boring people. Another quote is, sometimes when I read some articles, I can feel that there are hormones in the author's words. Yes, those words are full of hormones, with vigorous and lively quality. It has this very human touch, and this human touch, even if it's very colloquial, I can't even make sense of it. I still like it. And last quote I'm going to get into is, the beauty of carbon-based life may lie in the imperfections that exist in reality. We are fragile and weak, and we have a life gate. This life gate is our emotions, which have collective commonalities, but are also very different between individuals. Now, there's a lot to these 3 quotes I've just read out to you, but the main thing I notice is the complete certainty in those words. There is no fear, there is no doubt, nothing at all. And that I find is a stark contrast to anything that I've read coming from Western authors. And then here's another pretty cool part that reminded me of another video I made on the channel before. The spring after the rain at Dajue Temple is the kind of spring AI cannot write about. So why is there such resilience to the coming of AI? Why is their confidence so unwavering? One thing that came to my mind pretty quick is that overall, Chinese artistic culture almost always emphasizes the depth of feeling and human experience over realism or accuracy. As a Chinese friend of mine told me recently, in Chinese painting, we capture a feeling, not the scene itself. I assume that's why the writer of this article that we're reading here is so optimistic about AI not replacing them. Another thought that I had also explored on the channel came from another interview of Chinese artist Wang Xin, who says, quote, I think AI can help to make me more creative because the AI can generate many creative images, so that will push artists to do much more beyond what AI can do, to create something more and in a creative way. Alright, great. Now, we've kind of explored the state of things, but now it's time to draw from it those juicy lessons that we always get from looking at things from another perspective. Part 3. 3 lessons for us. Lesson 1. Give up traditions that AI replaces. Ai Weiwei, an internationally known artist, is a major figure in the independent Chinese art scene. He's the son of Ai Qing, one of the greatest Chinese contemporary poets, and he's a sculptor, photographer, traveler, architect, curator, blogger, and activist. He has said that art that can be easily replicated by artificial intelligence is meaningless. When asked about the issue of people having their works used against them in an AI algorithm, Ai Weiwei has said, "That is not a problem. I think that kind of art should have died a long time ago." And then he criticized art teaching that focuses on creating realistic images, saying it takes AI a second to do it. So that only means what they have learned very often is very meaningless. And he has even said, I'm sure if Picasso or Matisse were still alive, they would quit their jobs. It would be just impossible for them to still think the same way. Now, this can seem rather harsh and critical towards Western artists, although it lacks nuance because obviously Picasso and Matisse weren't exactly the most predictable or realistic painters, and also because there's an infinite number of ways to create realistic artwork. I still think this teaches us a great lesson. I use multiple generative AI models every day for my work. I see AI art models routinely using principles such as the rule of thirds, the greatest area of contrast, arabesques, etc., etc. To be stuck in our ways, to hold on to things from our Western tradition of arts that have been rendered useless by AI would be foolish, and I think that seeing things from the eyes of non-Western cultures is pretty freeing. Lesson 2. This one we've already kind of gone into a little bit. It's also been talked about on this channel before. It can be argued that the Chinese aren't as afraid of AI art because their emphasis wasn't on the things that AI has learned to replace. All I know for now is the Chinese art focus on feeling and human experience, which is obviously crucial to insist upon for us if we want to differentiate ourselves from the AI. But there must be many more aspects to their tradition that makes AI less threatening to them. I haven't gone further into it for this video, but I would love to do it if you guys tell me you're interested in the comments below. In the same way, if you know more than I do about the Chinese art world, feel free to educate me in the comments. I'm always super interested in what you guys have to say. Lesson 3. Do we in the West tend to despair and give up too much? Have we been rendered soft by our victories and domination? I used to think this was just something Western people say to place themselves above other Western people, until I heard multiple people from non-Western countries say exactly the same thing about us. And these people had been living in Europe for quite some time, so they had time to look around and draw a proper conclusion. So to me, that was very convincing. And it's very likely that part of the reason for the AI art panic in the Western culture is that we are used to life being comparatively easy, and we kind of falsely believe that there is such a thing as justice, that life is just. But that being said, the conclusion to be drawn in this lesson isn't just to harden up and eat our feelings in the face of AI. As the controversial author Robert Greene says, do not struggle against your vulnerabilities or try to repress them, but instead put them into play. In this light, I'd like to propose a more nuanced point of view. We must consider this supposed weakness to panic as a part of ourselves and use it. Explore the feeling of panic. Use the flow of outrage inside of us to break barriers. All that is part of us can be used to great effect. And lastly, as Leonardo da Vinci, a Western artist, once said, obstacles cannot crush me. Every obstacle yields to stern resolve. Whew. All right, so that was a cool video for me to make, to switch things up. And I mean, even though it was pretty speculative, I learned a lot making it, and I'm sure it'll make you guys think as well. Now, as I mentioned, my expertise is more in AI research and making art than it is in cultural analysis. So if you're interested in more insight about the future of art in the age of AI by someone who does both AI research and makes art, subscribe to the Artpost AI channel. I promise my voice doesn't always sound like that. I'm just sick right now. And if you want to support the channel, you can check out the segment that's about to start. And if you're interested, check the link in the description. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Putting talent to the test. Once where colors blended and the canvas sang our soul. Now the silence whispers, haste taken control. Farewell to the strokes, the shades, the lines. Bye bye, AI. Bye bye to the visions born of human minds. Bye.
perfection cutting